specialist showcase has begun.
This was terrible. This just sounds like I'm done. I'm sure there's plenty of potheads on this. So funny!
The following is a fan-off production.
They call me Alice in Wonderland. They try to lure me with a man. Go, oh, what do you know? Is that a rabbit hole? Oh, I gotta see where it goes. So off with my head, fell in love again. You lose your head, you lose your heart, fall apart.
What's up, all you stars and studs? This is former WWE Diva and current First Lady of Ring of Honor, Maria Kanellis, and I am here with my fiance and my wonderful, loving man, Michael Bennett.
Why do I hear sarcasm
There's
in your
no
voice
sarcasm.
when you say that?
There would never be any sarcasm.
Sounds like a hint of sarcasm when you introduced me as your loving man.
Oh, yes. We have someone else on the line with us as well.
We do. Someone I'm very excited to have on.
Yeah? Are you going to tell us who it is?
I'm getting there. Don't rush me. Yes, someone who I've actually had the privilege and honor to wrestle in the past for Ring of Honor. He is former WWE, ECW, and WCW, and Calgary's own Lance Storm. Hello, sir.
How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Not too bad, actually. Still freezing cold in Calgary, but doing well.
Is it negative up there? Because it's been negative all in the States.
Yeah, it's been horrendously horrible and really cold. It's supposed to get better this weekend, but I'm not holding my breath.
Ugh, so gross. It's been like, Maria, how cold has it been in Chicago?
It was actually colder than the South Pole one day, which was pretty. And it's sad because as I'm going to school, it's getting colder and colder. And I almost died today because of the snow. So I'm really ready for it to get warm. Let's all just move to Florida. What do you say?
I'm a month away from a vacation in Hawaii, so I'm waiting for that one.
Oh, God. Can you take us with you? Please?
No, we're not. Someone else has said that. It's actually, we're coming up on my wife and I's 20th wedding anniversary, so we're going to Hawaii.
Well, I don't want to interfere.
No one else is welcome. Yeah, no one else is welcome.
You can.
That is impressive. I have to say that is very, very impressive, especially as a wrestler in this business, to be married for 20 years. That's incredible. Do you have any secrets, being that me and Mike are about to run down the aisle as well?
The advice, and I actually give it to my students on a regular basis, is you have to be honest about everything, no matter how stupid and how small.
Yeah.
Because even stupid little secrets that, you know what, it's just easier if I don't say anything. If it comes out, then there's doubt. So it's like, don't lie about anything. And my rule of thumb on the road, and again, you guys are on the road together more often now, but my rule of thumb on the road was, if you're not willing to tell her about it, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
I like that rule. We should hold that one, sweetie. Has it ever been tough? Like, was it difficult to, is it difficult to be married and have a family on the road, or did you find it just, kind of easy?
Certainly wouldn't call it easy. It's hard, and I think the thing that, again, the difficulty that we, I think, had to find and eventually realize is when she's at home, I'm off seeing wonderful places and having a wonderful time. And she's dealing with the kids and paying the bills and doing all of the hard work that's involved on her end. And from my point of view, I'm sore, I'm tired, I'm making flights, I'm traveling, I'm exhausted. She's at home relaxing.
Yeah.
And you always think the grass is greener. So when I get home, the thought is like, oh, okay, I finally get a rest. Mm-hmm. And her thought is, well, he's finally getting home, I get a rest. And until you realize that it's hard on both ends and you both want to rest and you both have to suck it up, there will be that clashing of heads where it's like, I've been working all weekend. I just got home. I want to sit on my ass. And she's like, I've been dealing with 2 kids and paying bills and doing everything around home. I want a break. And you have to realize that it's hard, and eventually try to find comfortable ground in the middle, which we did. But it was also one of the reasons why I got off the road at a younger age than most do.
Right.
I got off the road at 35, which, I probably still had, some prime years left. But my kids and my wife were ready, and I was getting tired too. So, but yeah, 20 years in the wrestling business, and still happily married. So that's something to hang my hat on, I suppose.
Yeah. How did you guys end up meeting, actually?
I was just a starving indie geek in late 91, and I was bouncing at a bar that she was bartending at. So again, I was paying bills with working the door while I did the occasional indie show. So a lot of the staff would go out after work, and we just started talking as we were out in a group, and then eventually we actually had our very first date on Valentine's Day, 92. We didn't know it was Valentine's Day. We both just had the day off work and said, hey, we've been out with everybody else. Would you like to just go out to dinner? And it's like, we're both off on Friday. Let's go out. So we went out for dinner and couldn't figure out why every restaurant in town was jam-packed. And then finally someone waiting in line was like, well, it's Valentine's Day. We're like, really? We didn't know. So I'll always remember our first date now because it was Valentine's Day.
But not for the reason that it was Valentine's Day, but because you forgot that it was Valentine's Day.
We just happened to have February 14th off, and we didn't even realize. Both being single at the time, it wasn't a big day for us.
Yeah, right. It's actually a horrible day when you're single. It's a miserable day. I think any relationship that starts on Valentine's Day is made to be successful. That's my theory on it.
Your theory? Should we restart?
No, we're okay. But it's an easy kind of anniversary to remember. Not that people really have anniversaries for their first date, but I guess.
No, but being able to remember, at least I've got a good story that I'll always remember it. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it. Now, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, did you find it when, having kids and being on the road, I imagine that must be incredibly difficult because you must have missed tons of stuff, or maybe you didn't. Or I just always heard that being on the road with having kids at home, you miss birthdays or recitals. Or how difficult was that for you?
Again, it wasn't too bad for me because again, my kids weren't that old when I got off the road.
Right.
But I was actually in Japan when my first daughter was born.
No.
Her due date was originally going to be with my time off.
Yeah.
But before my last trip, she was had hypertension, and they said if her blood pressure doesn't come down, we're going to induce her.
Oh.
And again, her blood pressure hadn't been coming down, so we knew when I was leaving that in 4 days or 5 days, whatever it was, she's probably going to be induced. But my Japan gig was our sole income pretty much.
Right.
At that point in time, because she left her job when she got too pregnant to continue doing her job. So that was our sole income. So there was no question I had to go to work. So yeah, I spent the last, I don't remember how many days it was in Japan, knowing I had a daughter and hadn't met her yet, and I had to finish the tour out, and then it was the longest flight in the world coming home. But my boss, Tenru, Genshiro Tenru, one of the best bosses I ever had, he knew my wife was going to be having the baby probably when I was over there. And we rode on the same bus as the Japanese guys, and he sat on the front seat. So the first person you see when you get on the bus. And every morning, when I got on the bus, he'd be, oh, today, baby, come? I'm like, no, Tenru's on. Oh, okay. And he was the first person to congratulate me. I had just got off the phone with my mother-in-law that said, again, baby's good, your wife's good, you have a daughter. And I had to hang up the phone and get on the bus. And so I walked on the bus, and Tenru was like, oh, today, baby, come? I'm like, yes, Tenru's on. Baby girl. And he shook my hand, and he palmed me $1,000 U.S.
Fantastic.
Oh, he said, baby's very expensive. Congratulations. And so he was the first person to congratulate me on the birth of my daughter, and he palmed me $1,000. And just to finish the story, to tell you how great of a boss he was, 1 year later, the last tour I did the following year before her birthday, the referee said, he takes to the airport. He says, we need to pick you up early. I have to make one stop. I'm like, okay. So he picked me up early, and we stopped, and it was a department store or whatever. And he said, Tenru-san wants to buy you your daughter a birthday present." And so we went in his shop, and the office bought me a birthday present to take home because they
That's
obviously made a note when my daughter was born.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it's like, okay, this company's really family. This is a top-notch dude.
Yeah.
What company were you working for over there at the time?
It was called WAR.
Okay,
Most
right.
people remember it as Wrestling and Romance, but it only had that name briefly, and then it became Wrestle Association R, still using the War moniker. But yeah, Tenru was an awesome boss. So he bought my daughter a Hello Kitty telephone, which she played for years, even though every time she pushed the buttons, it'd speak Japanese at her.
See, had you known he was going to palm you $1,000, you could have been prepared and been like, "Oh, my wife had twins or triplets or
or
quadruplets."
You know, or 9 months later, my wife's pregnant again.
My wife's pregnant. Every 9
We're
months.
kicking out kids every 9 months, Denver. Where's my money?
How was it working in Japan back then?
I really loved it.
Yeah.
Because I really hadn't found Lance Storm the character or personality yet. I was really just, sports athlete wrestling, which is what I liked anyway. So I really enjoyed it. I was in good with them. Like I did basically 1 to 2 weeks every month. I did 12 tours a year for them.
Wow.
For a little over 2 years. Yeah, I went every month.
That's awesome.
And it was good enough money that I could pay my bills. And, I went to Japan for a week week to 10 days usually. And, I'd come home and I'd train, do the occasional indie show if there was, and I'd go back to Japan. And I really enjoyed it. And it was, again, at times Jericho was over there with me, at times other friends. But I did like 6 months where I was the only gaijin on the tour, which was rough. But I've always been comfortable being a loner, and that's when I started really reading a lot of books, because you didn't have TV. I mean, this was well before cell phones, iPads, and there wasn't even portable DVD players yet. I'm there with a cassette Walkman.
I always think about that. Like, when I first started on the road, I had a cell phone, but it didn't have GPS. But then I think about it, and years before me, it was guys, on a payphone, or it was guys in their hotel room calling. And I always wonder how anybody made it at that time. I think I would not even make it to the show at this point if I didn't have my cell phone with my GPS on it.
Yeah, I didn't have a cell phone until WCW. I think my wife had one first, and when I was talking with WCW and trying to get out of ECW because of the financial problems, the last couple of weeks when I was waiting to hear back from WCW, I had borrowed, I'm like, I need to take your phone with me, hon, in case the WCW calls. So I probably had a cell phone with me the last week or two that I was in ECW. But yeah, so it was 2000 before I got a cell phone. And I was working in Japan, again, what would have been? It would have been 90, into 95 through to 98. So yeah, there was no cell phone, and I was bringing, VHS movies to watch on the bus, and my cassette Walkman to listen to some music. So just imagine the bulk of the stuff you have to carry, because you're going to have to actually bring a bunch of cassettes with you and a bunch of videotapes with you, rather than just, throwing your phone in your pocket and you've got your music, you've got your movies, you can go on Netflix. It was a different ballgame because I'm old.
Did you have the fanny pack?
Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
Awesome. It's funny because so many fans don't, like, they make fun of the fashion statement of it, but when you live on the road,
right,
and you're making rental cars and airports, and especially when, again, back in the days of, the infamous Zubaz and stuff, it's like not all your sweats had pockets.
Right, exactly.
So, you got your passport, you've got your Walkman, or you've got your wallet and your keys and your hotel key and your rental car keys, and it's like having all that stuff in your pockets or carrying a briefcase was just a pain.
Yeah.
Just clipping that thing off, throwing it on the security line going through the airport was so easy.
I think the fanny pack is completely underrated. I think I often think when my pockets are stuffed full of my keys and my wallet and my phone and then my passport and then whatever, I'm always like, you know what? I think a fanny pack would be. I always look at Bob. Little known fact: Bob Evans still rocks the fanny pack wherever he goes. Not that that's probably a surprise to many people, but he does.
It's not.
He rocks the fanny pack, and I always think, you know what? I make fun of him for it, but that looks like a great idea. I might bring it back. What do you think?
It really is.
It is.
I can manage in the winter because you've got a winter jacket, so you've got
Right.
some pockets. But then there's always the, oh shit, what jacket did I leave that in? When you had your fanny pack, you always knew where everything was.
Right.
And especially when you're in hotels and you're in rental cars, it's like you can't leave your wallet in your car. You can't leave your wallet on your dresser. It's like you got to have it with you all the time. That fanny pack's just the greatest thing ever.
Oh, it's awesome.
So, of all the places that you worked, which one was your favorite?
Ooh.
I don't think I could pick. I really loved my time in Japan, but ECW was also really fun. WCW was probably the least stressful.
Really?
Well, again, as a husband and father of two, the job security, because, again, the fact that it only lasted a year when I was there, it's like no one thought it was ever going anywhere.
Right.
So it's like I've got a ridiculously easy schedule. We really just did, 2 shows a week. And
Did they not really do house shows? Did they just film Nitro and...
When I first started, we did 1 house show loop a month. You do Nitro Thunder, and then you do Nitro Thunder, and then house shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then a Monday you're back at TV. We did that 1 week of house shows per month, and then the rest you just did TV, and that only lasted a couple months.
Right.
And then they just started they do a Sunday house show. That was it.
Okay.
Because they realized that you got to fly us in the day before TV.
Right.
So if they just book a morning flight instead of an afternoon flight, they could squeeze in a Sunday house show.
Right.
Well, I'd leave Sunday morning, do a Sunday house show, do TV, and come home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really good contract, and I had hotel and rental car covered, so they were booking that for me.
Oh, that's
Wow.
nice.
So I'd get a fax Thursday that had, here's your airline itinerary, here's your rental car, this is the hotel you're in. Everything's booked. It's just a fax to my house.
Oh, that sounds
And
nice.
then I just leave Sunday, do my 3 shows, and come home. And the paychecks were really good.
Yeah.
And I got along with everybody there. From the
Right.
people, laying the cable and stringing the lights to the office people, I got along with everybody.
Right.
And when I got to WCW, I honestly thought I was going to be WCW for life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got a really good 3-year contract. I will probably be able to sign an even better one after that, and then I'll
Right.
probably just retire.
Yeah.
And, because it was great money and no stress, and everybody there I got along with. So that's sort
Right.
of what I was expecting. And then again, it's 10 months and they they shut down. But
Did you guys see that coming? Did you guys know what was happening?
we knew something was coming, but we had no idea what. Because there was the one point where we had a big talent meeting, and there was some executive from TBS or whatever, AOL, Time Warner, whatever the heck the conglomerate that owned us was, that said, WCW is being sold. Eric Bischoff and Fusion Media have bought it. We haven't signed all the paperwork yet, but we're giving them full control. So they are now your new bosses. They will be booking for the next few months until they've finally taken over. So we're like, oh, it's a done deal.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later, we're reading, again, in the Observer and stuff with, well, that deal probably has fallen through. WWE may be buying it. We're like, what? We had the executives in here telling it was done.
Yeah.
So then we're hearing the WWE has definitely bought it, but then it's like, I don't believe anything until,
Exactly.
someone proves it to me.
Right.
So it wasn't until we got to that last Nitro, like the day we pulled into the parking lot at that last Nitro and saw a WWE truck in the parking lot, that we went, oh, geez, I guess this is really
Oh
happening.
my goodness!
Wow.
And then, we walk into the locker room, and it's like, yeah, we're having a big meeting at 2 o'clock or whatever, and then it was Shane McMahon, Pat Patterson, and I think Jerry Briscoe walked in and said, well, we're your new bosses, guys.
Holy smokes.
What was
Yeah.
the feeling in the locker room? Were people freaking out? I just feel like everybody would be freaking out or sad or something.
A lot of people were. But there was a lot of people that, like the higher end guys, the Goldbergs and probably the Kevin Nash and stuff, that they had guaranteed no-cut big money contracts. So I think at the end they weren't too worried. It's like, well, if WWE buys it, they have to honor it, or I get to sit home and TBS is going to have to pay me.
Right.
So I don't think they were as worried about it. I had talked to a friend of mine who, Jeff Merrick, who used to work for the Law, Live Audio Wrestling in Toronto. He was friends with Benoit, and I had been talking to Jeff, and he had been talking to Chris, and he's like, well, if they do buy it, everything I'm hearing from Chris is you're one of the names that they want, so if they buy the place out, you'll be okay. So I was on the assumption that, well, if this happens, I'll be okay. And then when we had the meeting, and Shane told everybody that the vast majority will be getting a chance, and he made it was funny because he had made a joke to me and tried to use my "if I can be serious for a minute" catchphrase.
Oh my goodness!
But he got it wrong.
How do you get it wrong?
I don't remember what exactly he said, but it was, you could tell he made the effort to go, hey, I've been watching your stuff and I know what you're doing, but it's like, he got it wrong, so I knew that, okay, he wasn't paying that much attention. But he was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. But it was when the show was going on, we were really in awe. Like, this is amazing because it was simulcast.
Right, I remember
there was parts on both shows, on each show, and we're like, this is just really groundbreaking and crazy.
Right.
But when the show ended, it really did feel like, it's like after the prom or after your last day of university where it's like, this thing's really over. You know what I mean? It's like we're never coming back into this building type of thing, and we're not sure if we're going to see everybody again. So it really was sort of a solemn time, and I was really happy. I didn't plan it this way, but it really was just sort of sinking in because, again, I had thought I was going to be in WCW for life.
Right.
It was like, and because I was always a family man, my entire career was in search of job security, more so than I want to be a star. And I finally thought I found it in WCW, where I can just relax. I've got my career set. And it's like, now here's a new unknown. So I was sitting in the locker room, and I hadn't changed. And it's like the show was over, and the locker room starting emptying out. And I'm realizing that I'm almost the last one here, and I'm still in my gear. And at that point, I'm like, I'm going to be the last guy to leave.
Right.
And Paige walked in, and he was completely changed. And he's like, oh, I said, I guess I'll let you have this one. I think he was planning on being the last.
He was trying to do it.
He was going to try to do it, but again, all the other guys wanted to go out and party. It was spring break in Panama City Beach. But I wasn't the partier. I wasn't planning on going out anyway, so he ended up going out. So I ended up, the guys were pulling the cables and packing up the lighting gear and loading all the boxes into the trucks when I finally changed, and I was the last person to leave the WCW locker room ever.
Right. Well, now, I mean, between that last show and then, when you first debuted on WWE television, how did that all come about? Did they contact you? Was it kind of out of the blue, or did you know you were going to be debuting on TV weeks in advance, or how did that happen?
No, it was, again, basically, you guys, we're buying your contracts, go sit home, and we'll figure it out and call you type of thing.
Right.
And we did no, that was even after. There was really nothing. I think the only contact I had was there was a point where they said, you're going to be off for a while. We'd like you to keep busy. If you can't find bookings at home, we'll send you to, I think, Louisville, OVW.
Right.
I'm like, no, I can get booked here, thanks. and did a few Stampede shows in and around Alberta. But the Invasion debut, and again, the last person to leave WCW and the first person to enter WWE, I didn't know about till a couple hours before.
Really?
They had called me the week before TV in Calgary and just said, we've been flying all the WCW guys to Stamford to meet with Jim Ross to do a, welcome to WWE, here's the new deal, explain what's going on with everything moving forward. And they said, we're doing TV there next week. We're going to save us the plane ticket. Just come down to the building and you'll meet with Jim Ross at the building.
Right.
I'm like, okay, easy enough. So I just went down to the building thinking I'm meeting with JR. But again, being in the business for as long as I was, I had my gear in my car just in case.
See? See? I just had this conversation with Maria. You always bring your gear. Someone at a show recently, at a Ring of Honor show, got booked for a dark match and had to figure out makeshift gear because they didn't bring their gear. And I was like, isn't that an unwritten rule in pro wrestling that you just always bring your gear?
Rule number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's not unwritten. It's written. It's written into the book.
It's written. Big bold print. Always bring your gear. So I had my stuff in the trunk. And it was probably, mid-afternoon, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Calgary. And I don't remember who it was, whether it was Johnny Ace or someone that come up with it. It's like, oh, you got your gear right, you're working tonight. And I thought he was ribbing. And I'm like, yeah, funny, Johnny, really funny. He's like, no, seriously. I'm like, oh, piss off. You're not screwing with me. I'm not falling for that. And he left. And then, another hour or two later, I think it was Dean Malenko, came up to me and he's like, you got your gear right. You're doing something tonight. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, yeah, you're running in. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, you need to have your gear. I'm like, oh crap. So I went out and got my gear and did the run-in.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah, it was great. Although there's that awkward moment, and again, you've been through it, Maria, and I don't know if you've done any dark matches or tryouts, Mike, but your first time in the WB, it's like you're paranoid with I got to make sure I say hi to everybody. I don't want to offend anybody, and I had a lot of friends that were there, so I figured I'd be okay. Right. But I'm going there to meet Jim Ross, and I walk in the back door, and I see him standing not 20 feet in front of me, talking with Brian Christopher. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be in a fairly in-depth conversation, so it's like I'm walking really slow, hoping they'll look up and save me having to interrupt them. Because it's like, I can't just walk past him. He's the guy I was told to come meet.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I'm getting closer, and it's like he's completely ignoring me, I'm like, oh, they're really just leaving me out here hanging. And then finally Jim Ross looks up at me and says something really curt and short and kind of grumpy, and I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? And I walk by, I'm like, wow, that was unpleasant. That was the day he was firing Brian Christopher.
Oh, no.
That was the year that he got busted at Canada Customs at the airport with drugs in his possession.
Oh, no.
So I walk in on Jim Ross firing his best friend's kid.
So
that was like the worst day ever. That's terrible.
Yeah, so thankfully a couple hours later when Jim Ross had some time, he came and found me, and it was actually quite pleasant, but it was just like, boy, nothing like the worst meeting ever.
Right.
Yeah. When I got hired, I didn't know I was working on the show, and I didn't really know I was hired. So I walk into the building, and it's in Peoria, Illinois, which, I only had to drive a couple hours from my hometown. So I drive down there, and everybody's congratulating me as I'm walking down the hallway. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? Apparently, the sheets had already came out, and I was on there interviewing someone. And so they're all congratulating me. I have no idea what I'm getting congratulated for. And so I try and do this interview, and Vince doesn't like my outfit, so I have to go change. I ended up changing 3 times. He wanted me in a skirt. I only had 2 dresses with me. So, oh my gosh, it was a horrible experience. But yeah, everybody knew I was hired except for me. It was awesome.
Was that been after that week or 2 you spent in OVW with me?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a weird time, too. I don't know if you even realize it. Like, I didn't even know who was coming. Like, I just got an email from Johnny with, we're sending a bunch of girls down, train them for a week or 2 and give us an evaluation on who we should hire. And I had no idea who or how many.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
We're just sitting there Monday morning waiting to see what girls show up. And I'm like, if anybody else knew, any indie chick on the planet could have walked in and said, hey, I'm here, and got 2 weeks of training and an evaluation.
And probably a job if she was good enough. They wouldn't have known.
And probably a job. And there was, because there was what? Shelly Martinez was there. You were there. Michelle McCool
was there. Angelina Love was there.
Yep.
Melina was there, I think.
I think she might have been employed already.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
She was employed already, but she came that week.
And then there was that tall blonde girl that was dating Miz at the time when Miz was doing Tough Enough.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I wish I could get copies of all the talent evaluations I had to send in, because I'm not a beat around the bush kind of person. And I used to have to send in, originally it was monthly and then it was weekly, but when I sent in my evaluations, I remember her specifically. I think all I said was, she's a really tall blonde who's willing to get naked. If that's what you're looking for, she's perfect.
And they probably hired her.
I do not want to even know what was in my evaluation. I was straight out of Ottawa, Illinois, coming down to this tryout, and I had never wrestled a day in my life. But I loved wrestling, and I was so excited to be there. But it's just, I can only imagine. I don't want to know.
I don't remember specifically what I said, but I do remember that at the time they weren't looking for women wrestlers.
Yeah.
The athletic standard was, as long as they can do a pillow fight, we want sexy, bubbly women who can talk. And again, I gave you a rave review because, again, you were very limited on the wrestling front. I still remember how terrified you were on your first bump.
Oh yeah. And then I jackknifed myself at one point. I landed right on my chin trying to do a sunset flip. I had never been so scared in my entire life. It was terrible. My legs were still in the air. I was jumping over Mickey. Oh my God, that was awful. But yeah.
But you were very bubbly personality wise. You could speak, and you certainly looked good. And it's like you were athletic enough for their standards of what they were looking for at the time. Again, no offense to you, obviously, but if we was, Shimmer was casting for, we need women to come in here and work with Sarah Del Rey and Madison Eagles, it's like, okay, this girl needs a hell of a lot of practice before she's ready.
Yeah.
But for what they were looking for, it's like you were perfect.
Yeah.
You were lovely.
Michelle McCool was a phenomenal athlete. She was picking it up so quick.
Oh my gosh, I was so intimidated. But the funny part about me and her was we were the only two that made it to the top 10 that self-entered. Everybody else had come from agencies, like talent agencies and modeling agencies. So all the top 10 girls came from these agencies except me and Michelle. And Michelle and we instantly hit it off because we were both fans. And so it was like we knew everybody backstage and nobody else did. So here me and Michelle are talking about, how cool everybody was and stuff. But a lot of the other girls, they didn't really know who anybody was. You spend a lot of time at NXT now training the girls. And I think or training everybody, but I think they're fantastic down there.
Yeah, I don't spend that much time. Unfortunately, my schedule's really busy. I'm hoping to go back again this summer. I have made 2 trips, though. The girls down there are really good.
Yeah.
Again, having Sarah down there to work with them on a more regular basis,
she's
I think
great.
really helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of girls down there that are quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a lot of talent in general down there. I wish I could spend more time. The one thing, though, with talking about Michelle, I was so crushed when she went to Deep South.
Yeah.
She was such a great athlete, and I also saw a lot of me in her that, like, she was the first one at the building, because I'm chronically early.
Yeah.
And it's like, practice starts at 9, and it's like I'd get there at, 8:20, and she's already in the building. And I remember the one TV, when she was doing stuff with WWE, but still having to be down for something. I don't even remember what it was. And it's like, she called me from, my connection's running late. I'll probably still be on time, but I just wanted to let you know. And she still made it on time. And I'm like, that's what I would have done. Mm-hmm. And I was really looking forward to training and working with her. And when she said she was going to Deep South, I was just like, what a missed opportunity. She's going to be good. But, there's a lot of girls down in NXT that are really good.
What do you think of the current crop of talent? I mean, especially some of the guys that have more recently came up and now are on the road with WWE. But I just think right now there's such incredible talent that is in NXT and also moving up gradually to WWE.
There is. I'm a bit frustrated because I'm old. I'm a bit more old school. That I find some of their gimmicking and labeling of talent a bit one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. Just Fandango as an example. You know what I mean? It's like, apart from him being a dancer and doing dancing stuff, I don't get very attached to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of my students that are in NXT, former SWA students, like Tyler Breeze, He's a phenomenal worker and a great athlete, but there's so much focus on he's got to have that cell phone and take selfies.
Right.
It's like, let's not make it all about the gimmick, because at some point that gimmick has to take a back seat when he gets into a meaningful program.
Right.
So I'm frustrated that they tend to one-dimensionalize them a bit. And even Emma right now on when she's in NXT, she gets to wrestle more.
Right.
Yeah.
But on Raw right now, and I'm noticing that she's doing the awkward dance almost between every move. And I'm assuming she's being told to.
Right.
And I wish they would leave them a little bit more to their own devices.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of really good people down there. I'm a big Adrian Neville fan.
Yes, he's fantastic. What do you think of like the new Performance Center? I mean, I don't know. Have you been to the new Performance Center, or when you went down, were you in Tampa?
I've done both.
Oh, you've done both. Okay. What do you think?
The center is amazing.
Yeah,
it really is. But again, at the end of the day, you need a ring and good people to work with.
right.
Having a brighter, shinier building to me doesn't necessarily make it better.
Right.
But they do have, they've got, they call it the confessional, but they've got the green screen room with a camera in there that you can just go in, and it's all wired through iPads and stuff. You've got your own passcode. You just punch it in, and the cameras will turn on, the lights come up, and you can cut promos as long as you want, and they're just recorded and stored in the database.
That's awesome.
And you can watch all of your stuff back. Maria could watch her stuff back, but you can't watch other people's.
Right.
And obviously the trainers can watch anything that they want.
Right.
So if you're just playing with some characterization, you're playing with some gimmicks, you can do anything. You want to try a hillbilly promo, go cut 6 promos as a hillbilly, see if that works for you.
See what works.
So it's great to have that ability. And then again, I think there's 5 or 6 coaches down there now, so you're getting a bit more of a varied view, which I think is good. But they work them hard. They've got the strength and conditioning coach that you've got to do your workout program with on a scheduled basis, plus your practice. And if you're still going to have the look they want, you got to go to the gym and do your bodybuilding stuff.
Right.
And then log your time in the confessional. So you're a busy man. It's a full-time job. But the biggest thing is they've got that trainer's room that's fully equipped with a doctor or a trainer there at all times.
Right.
So they can really keep, the oil running through the machine.
Yeah.
You're not just out there duct taping yourself together.
Do you think, I've heard a lot of criticism, I've heard people say that maybe it's going to be too cookie cutter in the sense where it's kind of like an assembly line. It's just going to produce wrestler A, and wrestler A is going to be just like wrestler B, and then wrestler B is, and it's just going to produce this carbon copy of pro wrestlers, as opposed to, I know we can't go back in time, but I always think like the reason why the Attitude Era it was so successful and further into early 2000s and whatnot was because you had all these groups of guys who had the opportunity to wrestle in territories, and then after the territories got to go to Japan and go to England and travel the country, so they all had their own style and were unique and different and all brought something different to the table. Whereas now you might get these football players who are going to be taught one way, but even if you do grab guys from the indies, like say someone like Generico, he's going to be brought down and it's going to be, you have to be this way and this is the only way. Do you think that's a good thing, or is it a bad thing, or is there some middle ground? What do you think?
I think it is going to happen a little bit, but I don't think it's so much from them, trying to, hold a Generico down or anything.
Right.
I just think when you're all under the same roof, you end up all learning the same tricks.
Right.
And I think if they're more careful, they could avoid it a little bit. But I have noticed it when I'm down there that, they'll be running a drill of some kind, running this one. And say it involves a fireman's carriage, just as an example.
Right.
And for whatever reason, you've got a really cool one. There's a variation. You worked somebody somewhere in Mexico that did it, and you picked up sort of a neat little trick to it.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else, you go, oh, that's cool. And then it'll be like, okay, everybody do it that way.
Yeah, everyone's doing it.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you don't have anyone with a bag of tricks, the bag's wide open and everybody can just steal your tricks.
Right.
So it's harder to be a complete individual in that regard. And they do they do have, in my opinion, a slightly narrower view of what a good match and a good worker should be. I would like to see it broaden a bit. But I think part of that, too, though, is the evolution of the business in that, again, back in the heyday, if you will, everyone talks about the glory times, where it's like, you had, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, you had, Kevin Sullivan's, you had these different people. But in today's environment, those people wouldn't really work.
Right.
Because you could bring Abdullah the Butcher in and have him feud with, Bruiser Brody, and they do a brawling style match. Because, again, Abby's not going to be able to do a technical match.
Right.
But he'd do his 3 months or 4 months in the territory, and he'd go away. And then he'd go to Puerto Rico, and he'd do the brawling, bloody style. And, if he ran his course there. But now when you go to WWE, your plan is to stay there for the next decade or two.
Right.
So everybody has to work with everybody. And when everybody has to work with everybody, everybody's got to be somewhat standardized.
Right.
Because, Rey Mysterio couldn't work with Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah.
Maybe once you could find an interesting way, but you couldn't do it on a regular basis because Abby can't take a head scissor.
Right.
And, and Ray doesn't want to get stabbed in the head with a fork. So if they're going to be there in the same company for a decade each, you're going to have to be able to work with everybody at some point.
Right.
Which is why I think, the industry as a whole is becoming a little bit homogenized.
Absolutely.
But when, you could just, we're going to bring Kevin Sullivan in, and he's going to be in a brawling feud with this other guy that's just a brawler. It's like, great, we'll have this great brawl, it'll be unique, these guys will get really over, we'll sell some tickets. But you wouldn't need your high flyers to ever work with them.
Right.
But now, Randy Orton wrestles with damn near everybody on the roster at one point in time or another. So you have to, everybody has to be able to take head scissors so they can work with Ray. Everybody needs to be able to do a good brawling, clubbing, big guy brawling match because you might work with Sheamus. So you have to have everybody that can do everything. And
I think that's why. I think that's why a lot of the guys that have traveled a lot do so well down in NXT and then on to WWE, because if you've traveled everywhere, you pretty much have worked with guys that are awful in the ring and you have to pull something out of them. And then you've worked with a Japanese guy, and then you've worked with an English wrestler, and then you've worked with, all different styles, whether it be PWG or Ring of Honor style matches. And then if you've done all of those things, then you go down to NXT. I think you'll be more successful because then you can bring out the best of each person's individual style and then standardize that. So, I mean, I always think that, the guys that travel probably end up doing a lot better down there than just football player A from wherever that's never wrestled before.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think also, too, just that if you've traveled enough and worked with enough people and been different places, you become more comfortable with who you are. And I think when you're sort of more confident with who you are, you can still take the direction that they want and fit within the box that they want, but you'll at least keep a rough edge on one side because you've been there and you know.
Yeah.
But if you are just a completely blank slate and they tell you, no, you just bring blue out and you paint it over here. Oh, okay. But, if you've been a few places and it's like, okay, he wants me to use blue and paint over here, but you know what? I'm just going to fan it a little bit past the line so it looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
And you stay within the direction they're giving you, but you at least maintain some of yourself because you've already found yourself. And, had I not worked in, the number of places that I worked in before I got there, I never would have been as comfortable to just go out there and have the confidence to be me. Now, again, if they want me to do a stupid cabbage patch or try to convince people I've got a large penis, both gimmicks I've had, believe it or not. You can.
Which gimmick was more difficult for you to portray?
There you go. I used to joke that my wife was so upset when they killed the big penis gimmick that I had to give it back. Although I did go to Vince because, again, I was, I hated both. Let's be honest.
Right.
Although the dancing thing wasn't supposed to be a dancing gimmick when it started, it ended up being a misunderstanding that just turned into one. But when they pitched the large penis gimmick, I just went to Vince because we had a meeting not that long ago where he talks about how we need to be reality-based. Every angle we do has to have some foundation in reality. I just went to Vince. I said, I thought this was supposed to be reality-based. What do you mean? I said, I've been wrestling on TV for almost a decade in spandex. How are we going to convince these people I've got a large penis?
Oh, that sounds like fantastic.
How do you... Sorry, go ahead.
I said he just sort of chuckled and walked off, and it's like, oh, all right.
So what would your training style be at your school? I mean, I've had it, but for those that don't know what it is, then I think they would be very interested in knowing, what is your training style? How do you like to educate your students?
I think the biggest thing, and it's actually interesting, I was just listening to William Regal on Steve Austin's show, and he has very similar views to I do, that I think people get fooled into and talk too much about styles. Oh, you've got to have a style, or oh, this style's different to the style. It's like, no, you need to learn how to work.
Yeah.
When you can learn the just basic foundation of what working is, then you can adapt and find your own style. But you need to know how to, again, function and do all the basics, learn to sell and garner an emotion, and pace things so that the crowd can absorb it and follow it. Once you can do that, you can work. And once you can have a perfectly fine, good, ordinary match, then you can start adding bells and whistles and finding your little bit of style. And if you just, I'm going to be a high flyer, I'm going to do this, it's like, no, you just need to learn how to work first. And once you've got that foundation, you can put any kind of siding on the house you want. If you can't build a foundation, that sucker's just falling over.
Right.
And so I try to teach that fundamentals first. It's like, just go out there, and if you can do a match that can just go in the middle of a show and the crowd will watch it, they'll like it, they'll absorb it. It's like, okay, now once you can do that, then you can go out and start listening to the people and finding your style. And I think a lot of times, too, unless you learn how to work first, you try to pick a style you want to do rather than finding the style that you're best at. And, whether it's going to be, I'm going to be a Ricky Steamboat-esque babyface, or I'm going to be a, Jake Roberts-style heel, or I'm going to be a little bit more of a brawler. Like, you really don't know until you get out there and do that what personality fits you, even what moveset fits you. That just some things work better for you. And it's, when you learn how to sell and to work and to just interact and work with your opponent. And that was the one thing that I really enjoyed. Our third match that we had, Mike, where it's like we didn't really put all that much together.
No.
We had their finish and so forth, but we didn't have as much put together. And then they gave us a few minutes extra before we went out. And it's like, we'd had the two matches. I had confidence that, we can just go out here and read each other, and it's going to be good.
Right.
And
that one was my favorite one, just because on a personal level, just because of, like you said, I felt like we just kind of went out, like you said, we had some stuff planned, but then we just kind of went out and we're like, all right, let's see how they react to what we throw at them, and then kind of take it from there.
And I always enjoy the matches where you get into situations you didn't expect.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was the third match. There was a point where we were on the apron.
Yeah, I always thought
we're fighting on the apron, and it's like, you went to sort of hook me. I'm like, are you bumping me here? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, just block it, and we'll go from there. And you're like, okay.
And to me, that's more when you really just sort of create art.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing, whether it be, wrestling or just, again, if you and Maria just went out for a walk, instead of going, we're going to walk 3 blocks this way, 2 blocks that way, and we're going to come back, it's like, you know what, just go on a hike together, see what happens.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And when you have that chance to do it with someone in the ring, I think that's the real magical time. It's like, we're just going to go out here and we're just going to see what we do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you think that's a big problem with what is missing in independent wrestling as a whole? I'd honestly like to get. I don't know how much independent wrestling you get to watch or what you've seen. I mean, I know you get your students and whatnot, but I noticed that when I travel from show to show, a lot of what I feel like is missing, or what I see, is that there's so many talented guys out there who can do everything you could possibly imagine, but they don't have the working mentality where it's they don't know how to go out and decipher that, okay, this crowd is not really going to be into a Ring of Honor type match. What we need to do is be goofy and really play to these kids. Do you think that's kind of what's missing, or what have you noticed is the biggest problem with independent wrestling nowadays?
I think that is missing to an extent. I think and part of it too is I think it's what because most of the guys that get in and we're fans, are fans, is because I see with my students, it's like they watch Raw and they see these really fast 6-minute matches, and it's like they think that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And you have to explain to them, it's like, well, these people are already established, and they don't even work like this unless they have to. They've had their time cut. Mm-hmm. And, I think back in the day when I was a kid, it's like you only saw a squash match on TV, so you went to live events, and then you saw them work 15-minute matches where they just worked the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I saw those matches, and it's like, so when I got into wrestling, it's like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see a Dolph Ziggler, Wade Barrett match that gets 4.5 minutes,
right?
They're basically just hitting their moves and getting out.
Yeah.
Which they can get away with because they've got the announcers there to remind you that one guy's a bad guy, one guy's a good guy.
Right.
And you've seen them and you've already developed an emotion to them.
Mm-hmm.
The analogy, I think it was the analogy. I actually hit the guys when I was in NXT the last time. Because they were doing it more in NXT where the matches wouldn't have a lot of false finishes, but they'd wrestle for a while, and I really liked it. Right. And I said to him, I said, it's like going into a restaurant. It's like John Cena's McDonald's. Everybody knows what's on the menu. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know it. So when you walk in, you don't need to browse the menu. So you can just get to his stuff and move on because we already know what we think of him. But if you're just going to be, and again, when you're starting out on the indie scene, you're who the hell are you?
Right.
You come through that curtain, and it's like, I have no idea what's on the menu. If you don't give me a chance to look and just start throwing food items at me, I don't know what the hell's going on. So, you've got to take that time to let me know what's on the menu. Who are you? What are you about? What am I going to react to here? And when fans just see those TV matches, sometimes you forget that, you're not as established as them. You have to work differently.
Yeah.
Mike and I, we always have a moment before every match where I kind of take a view of what the crowd is, and then I inform him of what
She lets me know.
I let him know, although he probably already knows. But that I make my assessment of the crowd. Okay, there's a lot of kids here. Blah blah blah. Okay, whatever that match was that just happened, they suck, and you need to bring them back or whatever it is. But I think. It's funny to us, but I think that a lot of people do need to take a look out into who they're wrestling in front of before they go out there and plan a bunch of shit when it's not going to work. Mike and I, we did this match, and it was the same weekend. Was it Royal Rumble was there? Was it Royal Rumble?
I don't know.
Or was it the first match that we had in January? When it was with the Romantic Touch.
Oh, yeah, that was Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble was in town that weekend. And so I knew that it was going to be a lot of WWE people. And so, of course, we could do all of the funny stuff possible in that match. And we knew that the crowd would get it. But if it was a normal Ring of Honor crowd, they'd be like, what are you doing? But I most definitely think that that's extremely important.
I think one of the big light bulb turning moments for me was when I worked in Europe for Otto Vaughn's, and it was working with Fit, but they didn't even call them high spots. See, we call it a reaction.
Yeah.
And it really sort of drove home. It's like, well, that's why we do this stuff, is to get a reaction.
Right.
Yes.
Because Fit was a real controlling heel. He'd get on you. So even your shine almost felt like hope spots because he just had such a commanding presence. And so he'd be like, oh, I'll probably on. We'll need a reaction here. And I'm like, oh,
a reaction.
Okay, and, and that's really what it is. Like, well, we need a crowd reaction here, so you need to do something to get one. And I thought, okay, well, I can do this. Okay, that'll work. And it really drove home to me. It's not let's do some high spots now. It's the crowd needs to come somewhere. We need to do something.
Right.
The crowd needs to emotionally get somewhere else. We need to do something to garner that reaction.
Right.
Rather than just, I've got my 10 high spots I want to do.
Well, that's kind of what I've noticed by being like getting the opportunity to wrestle and all over on the indies is I feel like when guys start putting the matches together, their initial thought is, well, this is the moves I do. How can I fit them in? As opposed to, what are we trying to portray to the crowd? And I've realized it's frustrating for me because I'm like, no, I don't care if that's the move you do, and I don't care if you want to get it in. It doesn't really fit right now. So I think like that's a huge problem is the fact that they don't look at the big picture. They just look at, well, this is what I do and I do it really well. So I need to make sure I get that in.
Yeah, and I think too, because you'll get into argument with fans over this, and it's like, again, getting the proper reactions and having a bit of psychology to you doesn't mean that you're not allowed to do any moves.
Right.
It's just, find the ones that are appropriate and the ones that fit here.
Right.
And I think the biggest, clue that you could do, when Christian and I were working with Hogan and Edge for the tag titles, there was the one match, I think it was the one in Detroit where we beat them for the titles.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to pin Edge. So we're trying to figure out how to structure this. It's like, well, we could get heat on Hogan, give Edge the hot tag, boom, and then we could take the fall on him. But we couldn't figure out how we could work the Hulk up in then.
Right.
And we were struggling with it. It's like, well, if we get heat on Edge, let Hogan in, do his comeback, and then we have him do the Hulk up, but then he's got to tag out to get Edge back in. And we're like, trying to figure out how this is going to work. And Hulk Hogan said, if it doesn't fit, I don't need to get the Hulk up in.
Right.
Hulk Hogan is willing to not get the Hulk up in. Nobody working the indies should telling me he's got to get this spot in.
I agree. I think.
And again, I said to Hulk, I'm like, these people really paid to see the Hulk up. We're gonna fit it in. So we did a double heat so that we could get it in.
Oh,
but
perfect.
Again, Hulk Hogan on pay-per-view was willing to, if it doesn't fit, I won't do the Hulk up.
Right, exactly.
That's amazing. So how do you guys feel about taking a caller?
I'll take a
I'm
call.
good.
Okay.
All right. I think we have a caller on the line. What's your name? Where are you from? Caller?
Hey, I'm Robbie from New Jersey.
Hi there, Robbie from New Jersey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have a question for Lance.
Okay.
Shoot.
One thing that's pretty common right now in the WWE is dancing gimmicks. They're taking talented guys and just making them dance. And in 2003, you were given the same sort of gimmick. And do you think the writers actually expect these gimmicks to succeed, or do you believe there's some sort of sabotage, or what do you think?
I don't think they're sabotaging. I really think Vince has an affection for dancing gimmicks.
He does!
He does. There's something entertaining that he likes dance-offs. He likes dancing gimmicks. Now, granted, a few of them have gotten over. Too Cool back in the day, and Rikishi was with them. There's been some that have gotten over. And again, mine wasn't supposed to be a dancing gimmick, but it just turned into one. When it was originally pitched to me, because it was when I was, again, being boring and Goldust was trying to get me to come out of my shell, Brian Gewirtz was the guy that wrote the segment. He says, and after you beat, I think I beat Rico, you need to do like an end zone dance. Spike the football celebration, just sort of a show of you're really jacked up and excited about this. I'm like, okay. But again, it said dance on the thing. But he's like, no, it's just an end zone dance. You just need a celebration. I'm like, okay. And then he got called away to do something with The Rock. And Jack Lanza, who might have been the agent, come up with, so what kind of dance are you going to do? Is this like an Arthur Murray thing? And I'm like, no, it's just like an end zone celebration. And he's like, well, no, it says here you're supposed to dance. So what kind of dance moves are you going to do?
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, I think you don't want to start getting into an argument with your agent.
Right.
So again, I went back and I'm like, to Jack, I'm like, all right, I'll dance. Okay, great. And he said, all right, good. And then I go find Brian, and I'm like, Brian, am I supposed to dance? He's like, no, you just needed some kind of end zone celebration, but make it like a dance move of some kind, I guess. And so I'm like, I can't dance. So I've got Hurricane backstage trying to show me some free count steps. And there was I don't remember her name, a blonde girl that was like a PA or an assistant backstage or something who was really nice that I used to talk to. So she's trying to help me come up with something. Mm-hmm. And so I did my horrible Cabbage Patch thing after I celebrated winning. And then the next week I show up at TV, and someone comes and says, oh, Vince is out on the stage. He wants to see you. okay. So I walk out onto the stage. We're down on the ramp part going towards the ring. He's like, oh, we got a new entrance video for you, Pally. What do you think? And I thought we turn up, and then there's that horrible dance song with me doing the stupid Cabbage Patch. And you can just tell Vince is digging it like crazy.
He loves
he's
it.
He's got the chest puffed out and the elbows up, and he's half doing the dance along there. And he's like, hey, what do you think? And you can't tell him what you really think, because I thought it was horrible. I'm like, yeah, that's really great, Vince. He's like, all right, well, do your entrance now. What kind of stuff you going to do? Go out and do it. I want to see it. And I'm like, I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was just mortified. I'm like, I'm not going to do this in the middle of the afternoon in front of Vince. So I come up with some kind of excuse that I had to go see somebody about something backstage, the trainer or something. He said, all right, well, be sure to find me. I want to see you do your dance. I'm like, okay, and I managed to not find him the rest of the day.
Oh, my goodness.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Oh, he was digging it so much. I'm like,
He loves dancing. He told me that when we were on an overseas tour one time. He's like, anybody that can dance can draw a crowd. I don't know. He loves dancing, and I'll never forget that day. Thank you so much, caller, for your call and your question. But yeah, he definitely, I think, just has an affinity for dancers.
Yep, Al Snow, I think, was the one that told me way back in ECW that he had realized that WWE is booked entirely to entertain Vince. And he said the day he realized that was the day he saw Vince dancing backstage to Shawn Michaels' entrance music. Sexy Boy had hit, and Shawn had hit the stage, and Vince is backstage just grooving to Sexy Boy.
Oh, my God.
And he's like, if you can entertain Vince, you'll be employed forever.
Yeah, most definitely. Well,
Should
Lance,
start teaching that. Teach that at your school.
Definitely. Then all of the students will be very successful. Lance, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow you on your social media? And if they want to read about your school or get more information about your school, please give us all your information.
Alrighty, at Lance Storm on Twitter gets you the most up-to-date feedback on me. My wrestling school, you can find information stormwrestling.com. That'll take you to my wrestling school when I run 3 sessions a year every year, and I'm actually the one in the ring with everybody. I'm a hands-on teacher, so I wrestle and have matches with all my students. So,
and you're awesome. You are an awesome, awesome teacher.
Well, thank you. I'm not the guy that has a coffee while some kid you've never heard of teaches you. I actually teach you.
Do you have a class going on right now?
Yeah, we're down to our last 4 weeks with these guys. We're just getting into matches and stuff now, so I'll have to get out the duct tape and hold myself together for some matches.
Put yourself together. Duct tape yourself up so you can move the next day.
There you go. Nothing duct tape and super glue can't fix.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And have fun on your second honeymoon or 20th wedding anniversary celebration.
All righty. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Lance. We appreciate it. Dun, dun, dun. Well, that was fun.
It was fun.
He's
so
awesome.
Fun. Yeah, he is awesome.
He's great. He made my career.
Yeah, I mean,
I always tell people that he made my career. He was the one WrestleMania weekend in Miami, and I owe him lots. 3 matches, 3 of my favorite matches. He made me, so I owe him lots.
I think those 3 matches will always go down in your personal history as being favorites.
Yes, whether the fans, I mean, I've gotten a lot of great feedback on them, but, it's one of those things, whether the fans like them or not, they hold a special place in my heart. And, it's so funny that he brought up that 3rd match because I've talked to you, I don't know, I've probably talked your ear off about that match.
No,
about how much I loved it. And it's so funny he brought up that spot on the apron because I vividly remember that, and I always talk about it, how we were just like, all right, what are we doing? And I remember, you bumping me? I was like, no, just block it, and we'll go from there. Okay. He blocked it, and then I think he clotheslined me back into the ring, so... And that's just that's wrestling, and that's why I love wrestling. And I wish more guys would do the stuff like that.
Well, I think that you can have that opportunity with some people, for sure, in the future, and
Yeah.
I think that some people are, and I know me personally, I'm afraid of going out there and not having anything planned.
See, I
Although,
get more nervous when I have stuff planned, believe it or not.
yeah, I mean, I never have anything planned during the middle portion of the match. I always
Yeah.
have the beginning and end portion planned, but for the most part, I leave the middle to, like, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, I guess, in that moment, whatever the
Right.
fans want to see.
Right.
But before we get off, I just want to talk about
Oh,
how
what?
awesome. No, not like that. No,
Are
no,
we that's going down tonight?
no. It is
What?
not. No.
Before we okay. Please.
What? Long distance? Go
Long-
gadget penis? What is that?
BJ's. Yeah, go gadget
Penis.
Go, my penis will reach. It'll be like a slinky all the way to Chicago.
Would
You'll be
that
like-
do me? Would that really do me any good if it was a, like, I don't think it, like, it would have to be mush all the way there, and then what? Just hard at the tip, like the.
Just the tip. We'll play a game. It's called Just the Tip.
I don't even know what I was going to talk about. I'm totally lost now.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I distracted you.
we
Go.
were at Preston City Wrestling this past weekend.
We
Can you
was.
just- We was?
We was.
Okay. Tell me about your first experience in the UK.
It was amazing. We were only there a short time. I wish we could have stayed longer. But I loved it. I loved everything about it. The fans were probably the greatest fans I've ever wrestled in front of, hands down. The fans of Preston City Wrestling, the fans, the UK fans, they were drunk, they were rowdy, but they were respectful and they were fucking hilarious. I love them to death. They were fantastic. Yeah, I had 3 matches, one Friday night, one Saturday afternoon, and then one Saturday night. The crew over at Preston City Wrestling, from the guys to the lighting guys to the ring guys to the merch guys to the promoter, Steven, to his wife, they were all awesome. They took such good care of us. And then all the boys that we hung out with, from Chris Masters to AJ Styles to Godfather and Chris Hero and Tommaso. It was just an awesome time. So much fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I want to go back. I had one of my greatest matches I've ever had in my life against 2 fantastic wrestlers, Danny Hope and Madman Manson. And then earlier in the afternoon, I got to wrestle a guy by the name of Chris Travis, who's phenomenal. Another one of my favorite match of mine. And yeah, it's just an amazing weekend. I can't say enough good things about it.
It was hilarious.
It was so much fun.
There was a moment as, like, you're in slow motion
Yes.
doing wrestling moves.
I wrestled in slow-mo. So for the people who are wondering what was so great about that match, me and
It was-
Madman Manson, slow-mo wrestling.
Slow-mo wrestling. And everybody was committed in that building. Everyone was committed. There were people that were in the crowd chanting in slow-mo. I was on the apron in slow-mo. Tassel Man was shaking his tassels in slow-mo. I mean, there was the commentators, slow-mo. The people working at the concession stand, slow-mo. The entire building was committed to this one thing that we were all doing, and we were all involved together. And I've never felt so connected to an entire building like that.
And nobody knew we were doing it. They just went with it.
They just went with it.
The only people that knew we were doing it were the 4 of us and the referee.
Yeah.
And then the crowd started chanting, "This is awesome," in slow-mo. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever been involved in. It was amazing.
And
it was one of those moments. You can't recreate it. It was so organic and so awesome.
It was incredible. My favorite part, though, was as you were getting spanked and being rode around, and I yelled, "You like it?" And just
He likes it.
and everybody's face Like, everybody was trying to remain serious, but everyone's face was just so funny and I couldn't keep it in either. I was laughing so hard. It was
Loved it.
awesome.
I liked it.
So awesome. That, and then Manson saying, tuck your chin.
Tuck your chin on the hip. So much fun.
Oh my God, it was amazing. So I don't care. Preston City can either bring us over, or me and you, we can just go over ourselves. But
We'll go
we
back
have
on our own.
to. We have to get back there because that was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Please, for anyone listening who's not familiar with them, go look up Preston City Wrestling on YouTube or Google it, and you won't be disappointed. They bring over a bunch of guys, and the in-house talent that they have is phenomenal. So look them up. Please.
And this weekend, we have Ring of Honor shows. We're going to be in Milwaukee on Friday night. And then on Saturday, we're going to be in Chicago. And you get to wrestle Jay Lethal.
My man.
I've never seen two men get so excited to wrestle each other, ever.
It's like a party whenever we get to wrestle each other.
Yeah,
whenever we
I
walk,
don't feel invited to at all. I feel like I should just stay in the back. If that's going on between the two of you, I feel like there's no purpose for me. I need to just stay in the back.
it's like two good brothers walk into the locker room and they see their names next to each other on the sheet, and life is good. I don't get more excited when I look up and I see Bennett versus Lethal. Life is good.
Life is good. Yeah, definitely. So I think I'm going to give my social media stuff, and then maybe you can do that. And then tonight, I know you always say peace, but I have something I need to say after you say peace. So you can say peace if you want to, and then I'm going to say something after that. Okay?
Can I first mention my SBV high quality supplements?
I guess so. Fine.
Go to sbvfitness.com and type in code word Prodigy and get 15% off protein and pre-workout. The supplements offering great tasting and effective products without fillers, chemicals, or GMOs. It's great stuff. I've been using it for, I don't know, what do you think, the past month now?
Yeah, and I think you've gained like 15 pounds. So.
I think I have too. It's amazing. The pre-workout, I love it. Gets me going. It's like legalized cocaine. Not really, but it's awesome. The pre-workout helps you focus.
Maybe you should stop talking now.
The pre-workout helps you focus at the gym, and the protein's just amazing. So check it out, sbvfitness.com/store. And like I said, you type in code word Prodigy, PRODIGY, 15% off all your shit. Go check it out.
Okay, you can follow me on Twitter at Maria L. Kanellis. You can also follow me on Instagram, and that's Maria Kanellis. You can go to my Facebook page, which is Official Maria Kanellis. You can also go to mariakanellis.com. You can listen to this podcast now on Stitcher, on
That's
iTunes.
Awesome. Stitcher!
Or on fanoff.com, or you could go to mikeandmariapodcast.com. So there are so many ways to listen to it. So tell your friends, because we're awesome. So even if you don't own an Apple phone, now you can go and listen to it on Stitcher. And tons of people tell me that they like to listen to it in the car.
Oh. Goodness. Are you okay?
No, hang on.
Oh. You need to hit your cough button. Uh-oh. Hands up over your head.
You can do your stuff now.
Okay. Are you okay? Okay, while Maria's coughing up her lunch, follow me on Instagram at @TheRealMikeBennett. And if you look at my recent pictures on Instagram, you'll actually be able to see a picture of what slow-mo wrestling looks like. Also, check me out on Twitter.
You look like you have something up your butt, actually. But
I usually do. And then follow me on Twitter.
Whoa.
Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at @RealMikeBennett. And also, I just did Kevin Kelly's podcast. So you can check that out on placetobenation.com. and you can just look for the Kevin Kelly section of it. We talk about this podcast and a bunch of other stuff. We discuss my relationship with a certain lady, and we also talk about the late great Steve Bradley. We talk about Ring of Honor, and we actually talk about politics, which is fun. So yeah, check that out. I'm all over the place.
Wow, that was quite the Boston accent there.
What did I say? Place?
No.
Over?
It wasn't even like separate words.
All over the place.
Yeah, that's something. That's that was quite the accent you got there.
All over the place.
Yeah, is that your new line?
Wicked awesome.
Wicked awesome, guy. Hey, there was another. Didn't you do something else recently that I wanted you to talk about that I can't remember right now? Nope, can't remember.
I don't
Fine.
think I did.
No, it's good. I have spring break next week. I'm real excited about that. So next week, our podcast, we will be doing next to each other.
Oh, holding hands.
I don't know about holding hands, but maybe we can work up to it.
All right, fine. Second base.
Maybe try first and a half.
Tune in to next week's podcast where I will get to second base live on air.
Wow, dude. Whoa.
Whoa.
All right. Listen to our podcast. Have lots of fun. Be safe in this crazy, stupid, snowy weather that I almost died in today. And have a good week, everyone.
Peace.
And fuck cancer.
Off with my head, I fell in love again. Off with my head, I fell in love again. You lose your head, you lose your heart. Off with my head, I fell in love again. Off with my head, I fell in love again. You lose your head, you lose your heart. Fall apart.
This has been a production of fanoff.com.
And that's perfect.